Today, we are talking about the three sales call myths that are keeping most coaches, online course creators, and service providers from fully showing up and selling. Like, these are the things that you may not even realize are keeping you from showing up to sell using sales calls. So, if you're just jumping on, say what's up, tell me where you're watching from. Hey, Dean. Hey, Erica, so good to have you all here. I'm here in New York City. It is a beautiful fall day today. I will take summer weather all day long, but we got a little breeze going. So, if we're just meeting for the first time, hello, my name is Jen Casey. I am a brain based business coach, and I love being able to look at things like sales calls, program design, all of the things around sales and marketing through the lens of the brain and through the lens of psychology so that we can really unearth and unpack some of the deeper layers behind why people are getting stuck. Because here's the thing, you already know, if you've been in this space for any length of time, you already know that there is an abundance, almost an overwhelming amount of strategy. How many of you sometimes get a little overwhelmed with all of the strategy that is out there that is available in today's world? It wasn't like that 10 years ago. But today, there's so much strategy, and yet people still struggle. Not just with the implementation of certain strategies, but with their own mindset, with their own abilities to show up and execute. Yeah? Okay. Hi, Kelly. Hey, Kayla. So wonderful to see you guys here. So awesome. So we're going to dive right in. You guys ready to jam about the three sales call myths that are preventing you from really, truly showing up, serving your clients, whether that be one-on-one. This might be for you if you do launch style digital course sales. We all know Facebook ad costs are going through the roof. And so if you're in a place right now where you're really wanting to improve your launches, this conversation is going to be really powerful for you. If you're in a place where you might be selling an invite-only offer, and when I call invitation-only offer, that could be a mastermind, that could be an in-person event where you really want to make sure you're getting the right people in the room, in the space. So if you're in a place where you have some kind of DIY high-ticket offer, group program, digital course, mastermind, live event, that you're going to really, really benefit from today's conversation. So this first myth number one is, I hear people saying money objections are a sign that my ideal clients can't afford my offer. How many of you, let me know in the chat, how many of you have ever gotten a money objection? And more importantly, when you got that money objection, what did you make it mean? What did you make it mean? Mean about you, mean about your offer, mean about what was possible? Because this idea that money objections are a sign that your ideal clients can't afford your offer is true some of the time, but more often than not, that's not the case. That's not true, that they actually can't afford it. So while yes, like I said, certainly some people are in a place in their life where they have a budget and they know what they want to spend on a certain product, program, or service, and they might not be in a financial position to make that investment, make that commitment. That's fine. I'm not talking about those people, right? More often than not, the real reason that people don't buy has nothing to do with their ability to actually afford it. And give me a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about, if you've experienced this. Because more often than not, the real reason that they are presenting a money objection is that they don't really understand the value of the transformation that you or the company that you work with provides, right? They don't understand the value of the transformation. And maybe you haven't seen this so clearly from the business owner perspective. However, I'm sure you've experienced this being the consumer, being in the consumer chair. But as business owners, if you choose to continue to take these money objections, I'm putting them in air quotes, continuing to take them at face value, assuming, well, they're just a money objection, without really exploring beyond that, without really going below the surface, that right there is exactly what is preventing you from identifying the real issues in your messaging, in your marketing, in your sales process, in your business. Like there's a hole. One of my good friends who was a client early on, she was showing up to create products, programs, services for women who were struggling in their relationships with their significant others. And consistently, she was getting money objections. And because she was taking them at face value and saying, oh, okay, they don't have the money, I'm going to continue to lower my prices. And she went from a few $100s to like 97 to 27, all the way down to $7. And when she got to $7 and was still getting money objections, that was when she realized that one, her messaging was not clear and that something else was going on, that she was consistently attracting people who were, so that her ideal client avatar was not as dialed in as she wanted it to be. She wasn't attracting people who were coachable, interested in learning. It was more people who were in a victim mindset at that time. She realized that her messaging wasn't clear because they didn't really understand the transformation of what they were getting. Because when you really ask people, like, how much would you like to pay for this? And you give them absolutely no context, like, how much would you like to pay for a new house? Well, if it's an option, I would like to pay $0. Like, is that on the table? Right? So people are going to like, so that's like, there's a possibility that they're looking at it that way, right? Hi, Hillary. Hey, Aisha. So good to have you guys on. So what's so interesting about this idea, this belief, this myth that money objections are a sign that ideal clients can't afford what you're offering. For most people, when you hear somebody on a sales call or in the DM saying, I don't have the money, how many of you guys have heard that before? You've all heard this at some point, or maybe you've been the one to say it, right? Let me ask you this. What would that person do? What would that person do if their phone crapped out tomorrow? What would they do? I know what they would be at the store buying or financing a new phone. Period. So this really speaks to the idea that oftentimes it's not necessarily that they don't have the money, period. It's that they don't have money allocated for something that they are not seeing as a priority. And this can come back to the messaging of really being able to identify a very clear pain point, very clear problem that your offer solves, and then being able to clearly articulate the transformation that you provide, right? Because that ideal client, they see the value of having a phone. That is a priority investment. So my invitation is to go deeper when you hear money objections, to stop blaming your audience. And this is especially if you're getting chronic money objections. Like every time you try to talk to somebody and you put your offer in front of them, they tell you, I can't afford it. If that's happening, then this message is especially for you. Stop blaming your audience and saying that, I don't know, they just can't afford it. And instead, like, because if you're saying that, that's exactly what's preventing you from exploring what the real problem is. And so instead, it's time to focus in and look at your messaging, look at your marketing, look at your sales process so that you can really start to determine where the miscommunication is. Where is the breakdown? Where is there a lack of clarity? Right? So that right there is numero uno. That is number one. You guys ready for number two? You guys ready? So number two is number two myth. Number two myth is hearing no is a sign that you suck at sales calls, or really that you suck at sales on the whole. Now, coming back to what we were saying in number one, when you hear no, when you hear somebody say no, what are you making that mean? What are you making that mean? So a lot of times people will make that mean my product's not good enough, my program's not good enough, my service, nobody likes it, nobody wants it. I'm being rejected. They'll internalize it, make it about them, right? Hey, Kelsa. Hey, Mariana. So good to have you guys on. So now, yes, coming back to this idea of having this happen once in a blue moon versus having this happen chronically, meaning every time you have a sales conversation, you're hearing no, or every single time you have a sales conversation, you're getting a money objection. So if you are chronically hearing no, then perhaps there is some refining to do in your sales process, in your messaging, in your offer, all of the above, right? However, this idea that hearing no is a sign that you suck at sales is so wrong. It's so incorrect because hearing no on a sales call is actually a sign that could also be a sign that the client has been asked the right questions, that you've actually done an exceptional job listening, hearing what they're looking for, and you've actually supported them in determining more clearly what they need right now in their health, in their relationship, in their business. And they're saying, you know what? I think you're great. I love what your offer is about. It's actually not what I need right now. And there's so much power in that. So when somebody determines, or you determine, hey, listen, you're not the right fit for this program, but I can refer you out. I've got something else for you, right? And you create a relationship where they felt comfortable and safe, and then you get to hear the no. To me, that is the sign of somebody who truly knows what they're doing on a sales call. Because when you're hearing random objections or being kind of people are like stringing you along, maybe people are saying, oh, I got to talk to my spouse. I got to check my finances. And you're like, something's off about that. That didn't seem genuine. Chances are that person has already made the decision that it's a no, but for some reason, they don't feel comfortable being able to express that. Maybe they're afraid that, the salesperson is going to try to flip their objections instead of just hold space and really get clarity and help them make the best decision for them. So I remember there was a friend of mine referred someone to me to potentially work together one-on-one. Now, this referral, she was over 40, had built this really big Instagram audience as an influencer, and her posts were basically about clothes and makeup. And her captions were like emojis. She didn't really talk to her audience. There wasn't really this deep connection. She didn't share stories. It was really just about, here's this recommendation, here are the clothes that I'm wearing. And basically, that was the extent of her platform. Still super valuable, but I feel like that's important to know. So we got on a call because she was a referral from a good friend. And this woman was like, I want to write a book. And I'm like, cool, thinking this is going to be a fashion related book. No. She wanted to write a book about divorce. Okay. So I started asking her some more questions just about her goals, because at that time, especially, I was like, that's so not my wheelhouse. Like, I'm not going to be a book editor. I'm not I don't have people who I know as book publishers. Like, I don't know that I'm the right fit for this woman. So I said, let's ask a couple more questions. And so I was asking her about, does she have any other platforms where she's been speaking about divorce, teaching on this? No. Does she have an email list? No. Does she have any audience of people who are interested in learning about divorce? No. Does she have a desire to create a course or program or some kind of coaching or digital product that would go along with the book to increase profit? No. So all of the things that at that time, especially, I was specializing in, she was not interested in doing. And the more we talked, the more obvious it was that it was a no. And so I was still asking her questions because I was like, I have a couple people in mind who might be like the right coach or mentor for her. And so eventually I did send her some recommendations and referrals, but I was very clear with her, and she felt the same way. Like, we both just knew that we weren't a good fit. I said, look, this is not exactly what I do. These are the things that I do. If you came to me and said these were the things that you were looking to get support with, this would be ending very differently. But this is not my wheelhouse. And I know I'm somebody that I don't care what somebody is interested in paying me if it's not something that I either feel comfortable doing, if it's not my wheelhouse, if it's not, whatever, all of the above, then it's just going to be a no. Because, and I'll tell you why, because I have already, as a young 10 years ago, when I was new to the coaching space, I was so eager and wanting to help people that I was bringing on people who weren't really the perfect fit for the containers that I had in the health and fitness space. And as a result, I was doing a lot of extra research, a lot of extra legwork to try to take the offer that I had and customize it inside the container for them. And then I'm like customizing all of these different, needs for all of these different people. And it was exhausting. And when I actually shifted away from that, really got clear on who I was speaking to and niched down, I was amazed at how I barely even needed to show up in this fitness group because they all were obsessed with each other and wanted to check in and wanted to support each other, and then started stepping forward as leaders. And it all just became so effortless, right? So I share this with you because I want you to recognize that when somebody is on a sales call with you and they really get the clarity that they need and they truly feel comfortable and safe saying, no, this is not a right fit, that is a sign that you truly have done your job. Even just if you want to look at it from the safety perspective, because so many people will avoid saying no because they don't want to be pressured. They've been going through a pressured pitch. But if somebody actually feels comfortable saying no to you, it means that you've created a safe space for them. And that is one of the foundational pieces of running effective sales calls. I think there's this misconception, another myth, that you can only be good at sales if you are this extroverted, loud, white male in a white button-up with a tie. And that's just so far from the truth, because when you truly can listen to people and hold that safe space for them, those are two of the qualities of exceptional, not only coaches, but sales facilitators, right? Yes. Amber said, I'd rather them say no than be in the maybe. Yes. When I get on sales calls with people, that's the intention that I have going in, is to help them by the end of that conversation determine whether or not it's a right fit. So it's either, and with my high level mastermind, I'm like, it's either a hell yes for you, otherwise it's a no. Like if it's not a full body yes, then it's a no. And so when people are in the maybe, like something still hasn't been uncovered, right? So are you giving them the opportunity to say no? Okay. Myth number three. We're going to talk about sales scripts and this idea that sales scripts don't work, or sales scripts are icky or gross, fill in the blank. And I think this is such an interesting one. How many of you guys have ever used a sales script in your business? And this could be on a sales call. Maybe you followed a webinar script. That's still a sales script, right? So let me ask you this. Have you ever been to a bar and ordered a drink that you absolutely love, and the first bartender that was there made it to perfection, and then the second bartender came on and you asked for the drink, and then it comes back and it's a totally different color, and you're like, something's not right here? This happened to my fiance not too long ago when we were in New York City, and he was paying, I think, like $17 for an old fashioned on a New York City rooftop. And those were not even like the $17, and it was not even remotely the same drink, which not a good look. And this is something that is such like a random pet peeve for me, because I bartended for many, many years. I worked in a restaurant for 8 years and bartended for a good chunk of that. I worked at a TGI Fridays, so corporate setting. I also did hole-in-the-wall bars. I also did private parties. And so when I worked at Fridays, at one point, we had this really obnoxious manager who thought it was a good idea to unite us by being condescending. So he gave us all like kind of passive aggressive nicknames. So my friend Steve was the turtle because he moved really slowly, and he's like, you'll get a new nickname when you move faster. and there's a whole bunch of different ones. Mine was by the book because I had memorized that recipe book backwards and forwards. And when somebody didn't create something to recipe and their pores were off, I was all on it. I remember one day this really annoying guy, Brandon, came behind my bar, which is like, you don't do that. He was not a bartender. So he came behind the bar and made himself a sangria for his table. And I was like, what are you doing behind the bar, buddy? And what are you doing putting orange juice in that? That's not the recipe. He's like, no, it's better this way. And I'm like, according to who? According to whom? According to you? According to you, I didn't know you were a specialist in the corporate setting, and you specialized in building a bar menu. That's so interesting. And so for me, that was such a pet peeve because when I would go places, I would want to know that things were made to recipe, things were made the same quality, the same caliber. Same thing with something like Starbucks, right? We see Starbucks in our hometown and then in international airports. And whether you are in California or Texas or the middle of nowhere, you are going to get, or at least the expectation is that you are going to get your favorite drink tasting exactly the same way as it does at home. And there's so much power in being able to build that kind of brand loyalty because of brand consistency, right? And they're able to do this because they have taken the time to develop a proven recipe, train their people in this proven recipe, and then execute on it consistently, right? Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Yes. Hi, Kate McDowell. How's it going? Yeah. So I share this with you guys because when people say that sales scripts don't work, it's like saying that the bartenders or the baristas at Starbucks shouldn't learn the recipes and they should just wing it. Right? And it's so interesting to me because there is an asterisk here. Effective sales scripts work. Bad sales scripts do not work. And listen, I have used some really bad sales scripts in my time in the online space. When I first started, I didn't know any better. I was being told this is the way to sell, and I was repelling people like clockwork, getting ghosted on a daily basis. Not fun. But that was a crap sales script. How many of you guys have ever used a sales script or a sales strategy that was just bombed so hard for you? And you're like, this is supposed to work for other people. I'm so confused. Hi, Tracy Campoli. So good to see you, my love. So that's what I'm saying. Effective sales scripts are effective. They work. Ineffective, crappy, bad, pushy, manipulative, gaslighty, mansplainy, those types of sales scripts, obviously they don't work. Now, this is where the layers go a little deeper. If you are unprepared, even if you have an effective sales script, if you are unprepared for a call, if you are not listening, if you are not adjusting based on what feedback you're getting from the client, and there's a difference between using a script and literally reading from a script that you're unfamiliar with. Yeah, if you read from it and you've never looked at it before, of course you're going to sound robotic. Of course there's going to be a lack of connection between you and the person on the other end. When I first started my podcast, I was super robotic when I was doing interviews because I was like, I have to prepare. It has to be perfect. And so I would sit there and write out the most dull cookie cutter questions. And then I wasn't listening to what the person was actually sharing and being like, oh, that's really interesting. Let's unpack that a little bit more. I'd love to, and really diving deeper. I was just like on my next question. Of course, that was like, I would listen back to him now and I'm like, oh my God, like that was rough. But it's the same thing, right? It's about listening. Is there a flow? Is there a reciprocal energy? Or are you cutting it off because you're not paying attention because you're reading from a script? So like even the most effective script can be ineffective if you aren't familiar with it, you haven't created mastery, you haven't practiced it, and also you're not really sure why you're saying the things you're saying, how to say them, when to pivot, when to say them, when not to say them, like all of the above, right? And I think about it this way, because some of you guys know I have a background as a performer. Even the most talented, world-renowned, greatest actors, greatest performers will underperform if they haven't learned their lines, if they haven't created a character, if they haven't spent time in rehearsal, working out the kinks. And so when we look at creating an effective sales process, it's no different, right? So when people say, "Oh, sales scripts, they suck, blah, blah, blah. I used one, it was no good." Like, you really want to reflect on, was it actually a crappy script to begin with? Were you comfortable enough? Did you understand the arc of the sales call? Because I don't use a script at this point in my career, but I train in a script and I know the script by heart. I could literally read it off to you now, and I understand the questions. Those are my questions. There's mastery around those questions. So it is absolutely effortless and completely conversational and completely natural for me to weave those questions and reorder them with intention and know why I'm reordering them, as opposed to just having arbitrary random questions that don't actually follow the sequence and the psychology and the emotional arc that you're taking somebody through on a sales call. There's a very intentional, energetic and emotional process behind a sales call. I was just talking about this with some of the women in my mastermind, and one of my clients, who's a phenomenal marketer, she shared with us her new offer application page, and we pulled up the application, and those questions were really misordered. I mean, she was asking for their email and their name kind of in the middle, and I was like, why is this here? I'm just curious, like, what was your thought process behind it? And she was like, honestly, there was no thought process. We just like moved everything in there, and I definitely want feedback on that. Right? So there's a recipe. Even when you're baking, if you, I don't know if you guys watch the Great British Bake Off show. I think I always say it wrong, but you guys know what I'm talking about. That show, when they do the second phase of the competition on each episode, they have to make something and go into it blind. They don't know what they're making. They get a recipe and they have to follow it. And every single episode, there's somebody who forgets a part of the recipe, or they put it in, they're like, oh, I put that ingredient with this, it was supposed to be here. And they don't get the same result because they're not putting the things in the right places in the right order. And the same thing applies with the emotional and psychological aspects of having an effective sales call process, right? And so, just to recap, the three biggest myths that we kind of talked about today and definitely debunked, gave you guys some new perspective, is that money objections are a sign that ideal clients can't afford my offer. And now you guys realize that there's some deeper things to discover. Second one was hearing no is a sign that I suck at sales. No, it's not. If you're helping people get clarity, that's actually the sign of an amazing sales call transformational facilitator. And then the last one is that sales scripts don't work. And we just dove deep into all of the reasons why they might not have worked for you in the past and what it actually looks like to have an effective sales script and sales process that you can rinse and repeat, use over and over again, and train your team on. Bring somebody else on to support you with those sales calls, right? There's so much power and beauty behind that. So that is what I wanted to share with you guys today. Let me know in the chat if that was valuable. We're going to be posting the replay for you guys as well. And if you're just watching this on the replay, thank you so much for hanging out. Let me know below what was most valuable to you, what stood out to you most today, what was your biggest takeaway. And for those of you who would like to learn more about sales calls and really dive deep so that you can utilize this in your business to sign one-on-one clients, group coaching participants, you want to use this as a way to support and increase your profits in your launches. If you want to use sales calls to sell out your masterminds and make sure that you're qualifying and bringing in the right people, or maybe you're having an in-person event and you want to get on the phone with people before they come to really level set, create clear expectations, and all things in between. I have a program called Success with Sales Calls that we have just opened for enrollment. And so if that's something that you're interested in, learning more about sales calls so that you can really facilitate transformational conversations so that you enroll the right clients, then you can head to heyjencasey.com/sales-calls. And if somebody wants to post that below, we'll link that up for you guys as well. It's heyjencasey.com/sales-calls. We will be doing a small handful of sales calls. We have a couple of spots left for people who want to hop on calls to chat more about whether or not it's the right fit. But I would love to connect with you. I would love to talk to you and make sure that this is aligned for you, your business, and all of your goals for 2021. I can't believe we're almost at 2021. Oh my God. Anyone else like really kicking it into high gear for Q4, really ready to make sure they hit their goals? Well, if that's you and you are seeing now, you're like, okay, Jen, I never really thought about sales calls. Kind of felt they were going to be awkward. I was a little nervous to do them. Well, let's chat because I guarantee that if you and I are connected, then you would probably be exceptional at sales calls. I have so many people who hang out with me here in this corner of the interwebs who are so spiritually gifted, healers, just people who are so invested in wellness. You guys pour into your audience. You give so much freaking value. You are such experts in your areas. And there are people who need you. There are people who want to pay you, who want to make that energetic exchange so that they can learn from you and be mentored by you. And if you don't have, if you're like, I don't know, I want to bring in more money before the end of the year. What am I going to do? And you know that you've had something in the back of your mind that you want to launch, you want to put out there, but you maybe don't want to do the whole like webinar, or 3-part training series or challenge. And you just want a really elegant way of getting the right people in, and you want it to be just simple and easy and effortless and elegant, then I am telling you, sales calls are going to help you do that. It's exactly how I sell out my 20K mastermind. It's exactly what I used back in 2011 and forward when I was in the fitness space to sell $150 programs and I would make a $30 commission. I've used it for everything in between, from certifications as an affiliate to group coaching programs, one-on-ones, VIP days, my high-level mastermind. I'm telling you, sales calls are the thing that will allow you to sell any offer in any niche at any price point. That's why, like, you guys can feel my passion right now. Like, I get so excited about them because so many people are not using them. They're not using them. And they are such a gift to you as a business owner, because they're the gift that just keeps on giving, and you keep getting better at them the more that you do them. You keep developing even more mastery. And it's like, I just think about what's possible, not just for Q4, but what's possible as you develop mastery in the next year, in the next 5 years, 10 years. Like, when you learn how to do sales calls effectively, you will never, ever be worried about bringing in money, because you will know that you can always create more, and there's always more. And no matter if you're selling for yourself or somebody else, you can always bring in the right people. You know how to do it. And it is truly the skill that just keeps on giving. So if that's something that you're interested in, heyjencasey.com/sales-calls. Or if maybe you're watching this and you know a friend or a colleague or somebody who has maybe been wanting to learn sales calls or has got a high ticket one-on-one and doesn't know how to get people off the fence, get people to enroll, then send them this live, send them that site, the sales page, and let them know. Thank you, Kara. So good to have you here. Hey, Kaylin. So good to see you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for watching and engaging and just being here in my little corner of the interwebs. I appreciate you. You're the best. Have an amazing day. Bye. Mwah.